Cool. What up? Welcome back to Rethink. We are in the new studio.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
It's spectacular. It's way bigger.
Yep.
So now we have a new goal. How do we fill this one up with our arms?
Well, I think we get, if it's possible, we get guests in here who have bigger arms.
Derek Wolf. Oh, yeah. Could be coming soon. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Like always, if you're following us on YouTube, on iTunes, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share. It's how we grow. It's how we get this out there.
Yep.
As well as on Instagram, you can follow Jim. What else am I forgetting?
Oh, that's blowing up.
Yeah.
This is all new to me, and it's like it's fun. It's kind of addicting. My wife says get off your phone a lot more than I hated when people stare at their phones.
Yeah.
And now I'm that guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Sunday mornings. I come out of the gym and I get in my car or get in my truck, and somebody sent me a picture of a Wienermobile, the Oshmeyer Wienermobile that went in the ditch.
Yeah.
And I just bring it back. I've got to use this, and so I posted on Instagram, and it went like crazy. And then all the captions coming back about, oh, you got to be careful with your wiener, you know, or you don't want your wiener in the wrong ditch.
In the lobby at Aurora,
we've said wiener already.
We have,
boing boing,
without even trying to.
It's just who we are.
It's just a part of what's inside, just coming out.
No,
not gonna
we're gonna say that different.
We're gonna reframe that. Whatever. Don't edit that, John C.
John C.
John C's here.
You've been in Indiana.
Yeah.
I have.
What'd you do in Indiana?
No, not quite.
No.
I got the Father's blessing.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
John C.
See, that's old school. Men don't do that anymore.
No, we did it in person
air
and
high five.
everything. And,
In person.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good.
He
What was
told
that?
me. He told me his plan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's listening though. We can't reveal it.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
No, we wouldn't do that to
We would
you.
never
No.
do that to you.
She-
Ever.
We're romantics. Look at us.
She knows
We are romantic.
somewhat the general time frame, but not any specifics.
That's great.
So,
That's great. Heck yeah.
yep.
We're excited for that.
Me too.
We'll do a whole podcast in the background. when
Yeah,
we
what
do
are you
that.
guys going to do when I do get engaged?
You're gonna find out. Just like I don't know your plan, you don't know our plan.
We're gonna sit you right here, and we're gonna give you marriage advice
Because we are
Great.
experts.
from the honeymoon all the way to the death of you part.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Just
Whoa.
get ready for that. Mentally prepare for
All
that.
right.
one.
Look forward
It'll
to
just
it.
blow up.
Yep.
Hey, got a lot of great feedback on having
Yeah.
Nathan on last week, and
Yeah.
we are planning on having other guests in here, and we're working on some different men to come in here, and some maybe some women to come in here too, and give us tell us what we're doing wrong.
One or two things.
I don't think our wives could come in and go, okay, that's just dumb.
Taylor told me yesterday I don't do anything wrong.
Really?
No, actually, she laughed multiple times when you were like, when you're like, don't look over. She just started laughing. I'm like, damn it. He's literally talking about me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So before we jump into this past weekend, there's a lot of good things that we're going to talk about this weekend. But leading up to this weekend, like always, I mean, if we're talking about rethinking things, if we're talking about learning things, like what did you learn this week? What did you have to rethink this week as you learned about what you taught about?
Well, you know, I've always, that's a great question. I've always, since I got into some of my own work, you know, starting, you know, a couple years ago, 5 years ago in Crucible, and then kind of looking about that heart, soul, mind, strength, and the quadrants of a man's life, and seeing how they interact. Every time you think you have that kind of figured out, and then you get a like a new angle on it, and it makes even more sense. And so to work through that whole, your body controls your emotions control your mind, and your mind tells your heart what to do. It's like I've never thought about that. And if we could reverse that and have the spirit, Jesus, truth, really, really own my heart, and then go the other way. Now my heart now tells my mind, this is how you think about things. This is how you see things. And this is who you are, and this is what's going on with God. And then your emotions come out of that, as opposed to your emotions trying to dictate how you think. And then the king tells the mind, tells the emotions, tells the body now what to do, and there's a good chance of it doing the right thing. So even thinking through that, and I remember back talking when I was going through counseling, and we've mentioned Jason Martinkus a lot in here, and this I remember sitting at what's that pancake place downtown? Snooze.
I hate snooze.
Well,
It's overrated.
Well, it was close to his office, and you can't screw up a pancake.
You can't.
It was a good
But
pancake.
you can pay $12 for a pancake, and I'm not going to do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I went down there, and the first time when he said that like with like sexual addiction or, pornography or whatever that is, your body actually starts like, kind of push a boulder off the top of a mountain and it takes on a life of its own. Your body will create chemical responses that demand to be satisfied more and more and more. And that makes sense, and we might want to talk about that, but just the lights kind of came on for me going, if I can start like that, one of the services, I don't remember if I've said it every service, but like the worst song lyric ever, the worst advice you could give any person is just follow your heart, because, even the Bible says the heart has a capability of being the greatest deceiver. But then all through the Bible, you say, create in me a clean heart, or give me a new heart, or a soft heart, or search my heart. So the heart is important, but it cannot.
But it's not the leader.
It's not the leader. And so the heart has to have someone speaking truth into it. And that's that. So it's great. Follow your heart if Jesus owns your heart, right? And now the heart's a good thing because Jesus is, he's dictating your heart, as opposed to, well, I think what we confuse is our hearts are our feelings and our emotions. Man, just do it. Mm-hmm. I just felt it in my heart. And then you jumped over a cliff, right? I mean, I always say that if I did everything my heart told me to do, I'd be in prison, So don't follow your heart.
Yeah.
Right? Follow Jesus.
Within that, though, we don't want to get to the spot where we look at all of our emotions and go, we're going to shut that down and shove it to the side. So walk me through, what's a good balance there? Like what's the importance of our emotions? How do we realize and recognize that those are important and that there's something that we should pay attention to? And then how do we lead past that?
I think emotions are a gift from God that tell us, pay attention to that. It's like pain. Pain is something that, so if you put your hand on a hot stove, pain says you need to do something different now to make that change. All right. If you don't have any emotions, if you don't have any feeling, your hand just lays there and just fries. Right. Yep. And so I think pain, guilt, things like that, those are things that are meant to get our attention, not something that's supposed to be carried for the rest of our life. And it's the same thing as exhilaration and, happiness and all those. Those are supposed to, we have to pay attention to them. We pay attention to them, and then we direct them, as opposed to they run our life, right? And so I think that we just get them backwards, and we think like happiness drives everything. I'm not going to do anything that makes me unhappy. Well, then you're not going to do anything really of importance anyway.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely. So, you touched on two in the beginning. I want to go back to this. You talked about briefly the quadrants, and this past weekend you talked about them without naming that these are the 4 quadrants that we look at, archetypal man's mind, thought, masculine, whatever.
Yeah.
Walk us through the 4 archetypes, the 4 quadrants, and how that led to playing out to like the mind controls this, the emotions do this. Walk us through how there's 4, because usually when we learn about them with Crucible, we learn about them in psychology. Jordan Peterson talks about them all the time, whatever that is. But usually we look at them and it's like, I'm really strong in the king quadrant and I'm really strong in the warrior quadrant, but the lover quadrant I neglect, or I'm not good at, whatever. It ties into what you're teaching this past weekend, where you were looking at like, when one of them is out of whack, everything is out of whack. When your spiritual life is out of whack, this is out of whack. When your sexuality is out of whack, this is out of whack. It all ties together. And so looking at that type of thing, walk.
This screen just went crazy. I just saw a desert,
and
I saw some things, and
I'm not medicated anymore, and so I was literally like, "Don't look at the screen."
The Apple TV disconnected, so I reconnected it.
We're back.
Oh, let's start over.
No.
Okay.
No, just keep going.
Yeah, we're good. But yeah, so walk us through the 4 archetypes.
Wow.
Walk us through how they are actually intertwined, and not one that we can look at like, I'm good at 3 of them and not the 4th.
Yeah.
And why that's important.
Well, you have all of them. And so I think so I say archetypal, there's archetypes, which are like ancient symbols, stories, characters that symbolize and point to something else. And the
reason that we come up with those is because they've been ingrained in us.
Yeah, and they explain us. They explain a lot. So you go all the way to mythology. So I believe, like, even Jesus, when he was teaching, he would talk to people who believe in Greek mythology, and he'd say, he would quote their own mythology to them, because there's truth in that mythology, because we're image bearers of God. There's some intuitive knowledge of truth and God, and then we write stories to try to explain it. Right.
And if we believe that Jesus is in complete control and he's the king and he's the ruler, then if it's true, it comes from him.
Right.
Yeah.
So Jesus once said to a bunch of people from Greece, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it will remain as it is. But if it falls to the ground and dies, then it will multiply and a great harvest will come back. Right. That's Greek. That's not Bible. That's Greek mythology. But basically he's saying, stick around for the weekend, guys, because you're about to see a one person fall to the ground and die, and then a harvest comes out. And he's talking about himself. All right. So there's a truth in there. And so I believe there's a lot of truth in a lot of the stories that we tell even as children. And then I think there's great truths in the Bible. I believe those stories are true, but I think they actually, they point to a lot of these archetypes. So Jesus was asked, what's the most important commandment? And he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. Heart, soul, mind, strength. Heart, soul, mind, strength. And then love your neighbor. And I think right there, what he was doing is going, you are a complex creature. It's just to love God with all your heart. Okay? All right. So what's that mean? Well, Jesus pushed on and said, no, there's other parts that need to be brought into this too, because heart on its own doesn't do anything. Soul on its own doesn't do anything. Mind, living your mind doesn't do anything. It's all of these working together. So you have all four of these quadrants in your life that make you. And they work in sequence, and they have to work with one another. They don't work in isolation. So we talked about this past week. So heart is king. All right. So king calls the shots. King is spirit. So that's your identity, who you are. So who speaks to it? And that's where Jesus has to speak to the heart, right? So circumstances speak to the heart. The way you're brought up speaks into your king. So like you have a little boy, right? And you're trying to build into him identity, things like that. So he will progress along that until he becomes a healthy man, a healthy king. Now, we see some 30-year-olds, right, that they get stuck and they're kind of they're a tyrant. Mm-hmm. So right now, Booker I'm hungry, feed me. Yep. Right? I'm sad, hold me. Yep. I crapped, change me, right? And it's like, I want what I want when I want it. And that makes sense, because how old is he now?
2 months.
2 months old, yeah. Right? So all it is, hey, I feel this. This is what I'm doing. Fix it, okay? So that will change, and then he'll get into when he's 2. All right, he'll still be pretty demanding, those terrible 2s, and then he'll go through all these different stages. So right now he's supposed to be demanding and self-centered and wants what he wants, right? But when you're 30 and you're still, I think the term is a high chair tyrant, yep. Right? That's cute when you're 2 months. It's a disaster when you're 30, right? Yeah. And so, or something will happen in his life and he'll be told, just stay in your lane and you're a weak king. And so then he'll be a passive king. So you can be a tyrannical, that's what Ben taught, right? You can be a tyrannical king, which leads by dictating power. And that's more of a Hitler. Mm-hmm. That's more of a
Mao, yeah.
Yeah. Or you can be this passive, and nobody feels safe with either. All right. But a king isn't told to all this that God has entrusted him to put boundaries, to take care of, and to serve everybody within his kingdom. So you have king, and that's spirit, that's heart, and that's getting its identity from Jesus. All right. Then you have soul. Soul would be, people can confuse spirit and soul, but in the archetypal, and I'm probably really butchering this, so this is going to be a really fast version. So you have your heart, which is this is who I am. You have your soul. This is how I feel. Mm-hmm. All right, and that's all the creative. That's all the lover. That's all the beauty. That's all the romance. That's all, and it's all good. Okay, but so that's compassion. So a healthy soul is compassion and loves. All right, but when soul and emotion spin out of control, the flip side of that would be addiction. Right? So I have to do whatever I have to do to either avoid feelings or to have feelings. And that's an addictive, right? So a soul that's healthy is compassionate and loving and kind and good, right? And a soul that is broken is going to be addictive and codependent, right? So so if you have a codependent, addicted emotions, or right, sending messages to the king's going to operate out of that, right? Then you have mind, heart, soul, mind. Mind would be that calculator, that magi, Gandalf. Mm-hmm. He's reading the situation. He's assigning value, risk management, all that. So the different types of soul or mind that a person could have. A healthy one would be, I have the helmet of salvation. I agree with God. I think like God. I regard things like God. I value things like God. Now, then you could have a manipulator, right? Who maybe got wounded or something like that. And everything that he's trying to do is, I'm just trying to control the situation to protect myself and to get what I want.
Doesn't let anybody in.
Right.
Yep.
Or then you could have, your mind could be so broken up that you can't even make a decision. You're locked up, you're indecisive, you're passive. Like, I don't know, I'm so afraid, I can't make a decision. It takes you a year to pick out a car, right? It's the person that is never satisfied with anything because they can't make a choice, do something, and you're like, I
don't know what to do.
Right.
Yep.
And so then usually if all that's going on, then you have strength, and strength gets stuff done. Someone told me your warrior, your strength gets shit done, right? Gets you out of bed in the morning. And so a good, healthy strength gets stuff done, gets out there and does what needs to be done. That could be really good. A warrior, warrior in archetypal goes out and conquers the dragon. Warrior protects the village, fights for, on behalf of. Then there's the bully, or I think soldier is a word, but I don't want to. That's not anti-military or anything like that. But there's a soldier out there who's trying to conquer, or a bully who's trying to push other people down. All right, so they're using their strength for their own advantage. And so if you have a heart that's led by Christ and emotions that are actually, feeling and identifying with the things that Christ would feel, and then you are thinking like God thinks, then now that gets you out of bed and you go do the things that need to be done, right? And if it's anywhere along it that's broken, then it all ends up and it comes out through warrior.
Yeah, and I think that's all like a lot of psychology stuff. They based off a triangle. Like, you're trying to get to the top of the triangle. Everything we look at, Jordan Peterson, is a hierarchy. We're trying to get to the top, but we swing on this pendulum between the two of either passive or way too aggressive, tyrant type stuff on all four of those quadrants.
Right.
As you're talking now, and as you were talking yesterday, the idea of being whole, we're called to put on the whole armor of God. We're called to be whole. When Jesus says, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, that's you as a whole. Jesus wasn't stupid. Like, our brains were literally built to love God with everything that we have.
Sure.
So that's all really heady up here stuff. Taking that down to here, taking the whole armor of God and loving God with your wholeness, everything. What can we start doing? What can we start looking at? How can we start training ourselves to pursue being whole in Jesus?
Yeah.
You said yesterday, like, Jesus is the only thing that can change your heart, which is true. But we also can train to get to know Jesus better, so that way he can change more and more and more and more.
Right.
So what does training look like?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you're always going to be stronger in some of the quadrants than the other, all right? And then usually if you're like all warrior, which I get accused of a lot. So king, what do you mean by that?
Never.
So I'm high in king, which is sovereign leadership, trying to, or what has to be done over this whole. And then sometimes emotions feel to me like they weak, all right? Yep. And so a lot of times, like, well, you always make fun of people crying. It's like, because it makes me uncomfortable. Like, if you start crying right now, I'd probably like
last week.
I'd probably start smiling, not because I'm making fun of you. I get real nervous.
Why is that?
So like probably my shadow from my past is I was made to feel weak and ashamed, and anything that reminds me of that feeling, I'm like, how do I get out of the room? All right. And so I will warrior up, and I don't want to make people cry, but I
you want to protect yourself.
And I say that, but then everybody says that, hey, you teach, you warrior up, but you teach a lot of that lover quadrant a lot. This is why I do it. My throat closed up several times this past week when I'm just talking about, what if we got a hold of this? What if we really, tapped into that strength, and actually our families felt safe? And I'm so mad, right? Anger, mad, lover, right? I'm so mad that we just bought all the BS and it's ruined our lives. And why do I keep doing that? And I got tears coming down my face, all right? That's lover, right? But now I'm trying to summon the troops from king. I'm rallying the troops, the warriors, and go, we got to think different. All right. So it's all those things. So I think that what you have to do is go, what am I really strong in? And then what's kind of out of bounds? Why do I always, my first thing is I warrior up on people, right? And it's probably has something to do with the quadrant that you're weak in, and there's a reason you're weak in. All right. Yeah, like one, I know you've said this before. One of your shadows is I don't want to do anything that makes me feel stupid.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So I say, hey, where are we going to eat for lunch? And you'll go, where do you want to eat for lunch?
Yeah.
If
I make the wrong choice, then in my head, you don't even think about it. You're like, Cole, I want to go somewhere else. But in my head, I'm like, he thinks my idea is dumb.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that comes from some place. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what, we always talk about doing our work, and we're leaning into that, And so, all right, so like, I've gotten a lot of questions from both women and men about like, okay, in terms of sexuality. All right. And then you think, well, that's your physical, right? No, it's from that lover quadrant.
Yeah.
Okay. And, like, how do you deal with that, or how do you break that, or how do you do it different as a single man, as a person who's been looking at a lot of porn, whatever that is? How do you do that? So you go back. So that's probably that lover quadrant. I love how Ben taught it a couple months ago, that most of the things we do is we're looking for something good in the wrong place. Yep. I thought, man, that's so true.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a man the other day who struggled with porn for a long time. And I remember when he said to me, whenever I would go to that screen or that image, it was immediate acceptance, right? And with low risk, there's no failure. There was immediate acceptance, and I felt powerful. I know there's a tsunami of shame coming, all right? So what is it in that quadrant that is, what are you looking for, right? Because like I was talking to my wife this morning, and we were talking about just anger. Yeah. She has some anger stuff going on. I got some anger stuff going on too, and then like, where do I put my anger? And as we talked more.
Where do you put your anger?
Right. So I warrior up.
Yeah.
But what is coming out as anger isn't really anger, it's sadness. But sadness is weakness. So you can't look sad, so you get pissed. And then you warrior up, all right? I'm looking for something good. I don't want to act sad, because sad would mean, for some reason, I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, then I don't have any worth. And in terms of some of the big areas of your life, if you get like sexuality, if you get rejected sexually, you don't get sad. All right, you get mad, because sad would confirm that you're a weak man. Mm-hmm. Right? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
I'm not even saying it's not right, but it's what it's like. I need some confirmation that I'm strong. I'm gonna look through it through sexuality, and then when I get rejected, I gotta get mad, because I want to prove I'm strong.
Yeah.
Right. Even though I got rejected. Right. And it all goes back to, whoa, what if this means that what I thought years ago is actually true about me, and what was done to me and what was said to me and the rejection of my whatever, or the person that hurt me, whatever, they were right. And I'm a piece of shit, and I'm not a good man. So I have to go, no, that can't be true. So my sadness usually comes out as anger. But I think being able to say that, it comes from a lot of work. We talk about crucible stuff all the time. The best thing about crucible is it's not the weekend. Yeah. That identifies some stuff. The best thing is now I have the tools and language to go, so we have a thing called clearing, right? So let's say that I'm really angry at you. The clearing process would be, I would come to you and I would say, hey, Cole, I've got a lot of energy towards you, right? And so then I would give you, here's what I saw. And it would just have to be data. Like if a court person read back the transcript, Cole did this, and then he did this, and then he did this.
With no emotion tied to it.
Well, you tried not to.
Right.
Just data.
Right.
All right? So then you would say, is that, you understand? Yes, that's what happened. All right? So then I have a story that goes along with that. Well, the reason that you would do that is this is a judgment. All right? And then what kind of man does that? I think you're a weak man, or you're an angry man, or you're a mean man, you're a selfish man, you're a insecure man, whatever that is. Right? Then, so now, why is that bringing up so much energy in me? Because usually the arguments that I have with another person that I really have, wait, this is a lot of energy for what you did. I'm not saying what you did was right or wrong, or didn't deserve some energy, but wow, I'm not just angry. I'm like super pissed, and I'm imagining, right? Yeah. Why is that? Because if I take a step back and go, here's here's why that has to do with me. And then all of a sudden I realize Cole just pulled a trigger about something that's been stuffed in a closet for a long time, and you reminded me of it. And what you did was a stupid thing, but doesn't deserve this. I need to pay attention to this over here. And then how many times, really, do our wives or our girlfriends or our kids, they're just the one that pulled the trigger, and they get everything dumped on them, and it doesn't have anything to do with them. And I think it's the same with any area of life, is going, so why do I keep running to pornography or, affairs? Or why do I keep why don't I just turn the text messages off? Why do I keep on returning it? I'm getting something from that. And I know it can blow up my life, but what am I looking for? That it's never delivered, ever, And I think we got to carve out an entire podcast just to talk about. So as a single guy, would I just go bowling a lot? Then in youth group, I was actually told, well, you should do group dates and go bowling. And I'm like, listen, I was a youth pastor. I know what kids did behind the bowling alley.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I knew what I did on youth retreats.
Yeah.
So it's like there's something else that has to happen in a person's heart. And whether they're 13 or, a college student, whatever it is, there's a choice and a decision you have to make in your heart that there is no formula out there that will keep you sexually pure, right? Or away from porn or whatever, until there's something, a decision. And I don't want to rush through that, so let's just save that. Yeah. But the truth is that all parts of your life you need to pay attention to, because you are a king. You're either a spoiled brat, high chair tyrant, I want what I want when I want it, or you're a dictator. And usually that's because of who that king's listening to. Who's Jesus tell you are? And who, or are you listening to down the chain and letting it speak up? The mind that is set on the Spirit, right, listens to the Spirit, and the Spirit controls. That's what Romans 8 says, all right? And then the mind that sets on the flesh, everything downstream. So my thoughts, my emotions, and my hormones, if those are dictating my life, then that's what my life's going to be about. If Jesus is dictating my life, then my emotions, my mind, and my hormones are going to take orders from them. Right.
I mean, that plays out in every aspect of culture and society and politics right now anyway, of like, if we were to actually look upstream at what is going on, if we look at the Me Too movement, if we look at Black Lives Matter, if we look at all this stuff, there's something else going on that's not this surface level type thing. And that's, that's a landmine.
And there's not a surface level solution to it either. It's like, well, just don't do that.
Yeah. Doesn't work.
Get over it. I made a pretty strong statement this past week. Like, so the scripture we looked at starts with stand firm. And we all been knocked down. But there comes a point where you have to make a choice and a decision. And I probably came across a little too simplistic. You're like, well, life hit me down and I got hurt and I got, abused, raped, molested, divorced, cheated on, whatever. And I just got knocked down and it really hurts, and well, get up. Now, I certainly don't want to imply, well, get over it.
Right.
All right.
Getting up and getting over it's way different.
Oh, very, all right. But there comes a point where you go, all right, like we tell people all the time, hey, come to Flatirons for a while and just sit and just let healing take place and let God's truth wash over you. But if you're still sitting there a year after that and you haven't engaged at all or moved in a different direction, but there's seasons, right? And the season is not forever. Like if and it doesn't honor God, it doesn't honor you, and it probably doesn't honor the situation. Like I know people that won't get over, not get over is not the right way. They won't heal up at all from somebody's that they lost. They actually feel it would dishonor them, the person they lost. And I just think that that person, if they're in heaven, if they could, they would yell going, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. This isn't doing anybody any good, Yeah. It's okay if you move on with your life, And but I think that's because something's broken inside. A loyalty. Where would loyalty come from? Emotions and the way I think. Mm-hmm. I think that if I were to, move on or do something healthy with my life, it would dishonor their memory, and that's wrong thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to look at all the quadrants because they all interact with one another. And again, there's been thousands of books and college courses that are much better than what I just talked about. I think that when Jesus said, you got to love the Lord your God, and he's quoting Old Testament, right? Heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor, right? He's saying is that all this works together. The man who says, I love God, but hates his neighbor is a liar and hates God. So this, you cannot separate them. So for you to say, I'm fine. My heart or, my addiction or whatever that, or my affairs, or the fact that every time that my kids piss me off, I smack them, or I leave, I go and I drink a bottle of something, right? For you to say none of that has to do with the other parts, right? It's like, if you said it out loud, you'd go, that's not true, right?
Yeah.
The reason I get angry and I punch is not because my flesh is screwed up. It's because I'm thinking wrong and my emotions are messed up and I'm looking for the wrong thing. And that's because I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The man who punches his wife or smacks his kids or has an affair, it all goes back to heart. You don't know who you are. Something's broken in your identity. And you have to resolve that first, because you can lock yourself in a cage and not have access to porn or drugs or alcohol and still be a totally broken person, because nothing's changed on the inside.
Yeah.
And you'll just replace it with something else.
Yeah.
Right? You can get addicted to an AA meeting.
For sure.
Right? You can get addicted to God.
When you replace something that was filling a void, you have an empty space there.
Absolutely.
It's about what you fill it with at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. Last thing. So you said that this morning you and Robin were talking about, like, I'm angry about this, I'm angry about this. A lot of people don't know how to identify that. We don't know how to identify that identity piece that is wrong, that's broken, whatever. If you were to not change your anger, like stuffing your anger is not good, but if you were to take what's true about you, how are you going to find that this week? And what's one step you're going to do to replace the broken part with what's actually true about you?
Wow, that's another podcast too. Yeah. I think the very fact that in the right moment, Robin and I were actually having a conversation standing across the island in the kitchen this morning. Wasn't really planned, but we both felt like it was safe to actually put a toe in that water without getting heated. And there's a couple of times when she was talking to me and I take a breath and she goes, please don't talk. Because what you're going to do is you're going to argue with me and convince me that my opinion or my viewpoint is wrong and that you're right. And that's exactly what I was going to do.
For sure.
Right? Because I'm trying to defend, but if you say if that's true about me, then now I'm a bad man, I'm a weak man, and everything that I feared just came true, right? So I listened to her and I went, no, I want to think about that. Can I give a perspective that's not arguing, And it's like, yeah, I'm angry too. And I don't know what to do with my anger. So I either am angry at you and then it makes you feel like shit. All right. Or I stuff it and kind of check out on you and you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just saying it out loud. And so, right now, I mean, that's 4 hours ago, I'm trying to figure out. So I told her I got to think about that, and I'm going to think about it and probably talk to I have a soul group tomorrow. I'll probably bring that in there. And then depending on kind of the next thing is I might need to call my counselor again and go, okay, I have anger. I don't know where to put it. Right. And, because my anger usually comes out if I can't be angry at Robin because she has a migraine or she's depressed or she's my wife or whatever that is. Woe to the person who comes in my office at the wrong time because they're going to get all of it on them. And I think that if we were honest as men, we beat up the wrong people. We shouldn't beat up anybody, but we beat up the wrong people because we don't know where to put our anger. Mm-hmm. And our anger is really not about anger. It's usually about fear or sadness, but we can't say that out loud because then we'd be weak. Mm-hmm. So we just punch a wall.
Yeah. But every answer that you just had of what you're going to do, the steps you're going to do, involved talking to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, so I talked about it on the Old Fashioned Friday. I should invite you to that sometime.
Someday. Yeah. Maybe one day.
Yeah. You talk about that anger thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, is that you can confess your sins to God and He's faithful and just and forgive them. But then James chapter 5 says, but we got to work through stuff. We got to confess our sins to one another, and that's where healing comes. I'm forgiven for all my jacked up, effed up life. Mm-hmm. I've made a lot of sinful choices and mistakes.
But healing sounds good.
Healing sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm forgiven. I'm going to heaven. I just don't want it to suck till I get there.
Yeah.
Right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Get that for sure. See you next week.
Did we say wiener anymore?
I think we said it once or twice. Wiener.
That's where all my baggage comes.
Oh, I've got a lot there.
All right, see ya.
See ya.